I woke up to wet windows and that heavy, cold air that makes your joints feel older than they are. If you're a senior sleeping in an RV tonight, there's something that can hurt you much faster than the temperature outside. It isn't just the cold, it's moisture. When the cold and moisture team up, a rough night turns into a real emergency fast. The CDC warns that older adults are at a significantly higher risk for hypothermia when food, heat, or protection isn't enough. Today, I'm walking you through 11 real heating and power moves that full-time RVers use to stay alive, including a few that cost almost nothing. But before we get into the gear, you have to understand the one hidden trap that makes most people lose this fight even if they have a $1,000 heater. The trap is simple. Once the sun goes down, your RV is a thin shell made of glass and aluminum. If you don't add heat, the temperature inside slides toward the freezing air outside. According to the Mayo Clinic, hyperthermia happens when your core drops below 95 degrees Fahrenheit. To stop that, you need to do two things. Keep more heat inside and create less moisture inside. Every time you breathe out, you release warm water vapor. In a small closed RV, that moisture stacks up. When it hits a cold window, it turns into real water. Once your bedding and clothes get damp, you're in trouble. Water pulls heat away from your body faster than air. The CDC warns that wet feet can lose heat about 25 times faster than dry feet. But here's where most people make their first big mistake. They try to heat the whole rig. Instead of fighting for the whole RV, you have to shrink the battlefield. Make the space smaller. If you're in a motorhome, the cockpit is basically a giant freezing glass box. At night, block off what you don't need. Use a thick blanket or a heavy curtain or a moving pad to turn your sleeping area into a tiny room inside the RV. This makes every BTU of heat feel twice as strong. Once the zone is small, you have to hunt the cold thief. These are the drafts in your door sweeps, slide seals, or pass-through hatches. A rolled up towel in the right spot stops the steady stream of cold air that creeps in all night. This is how you wake up less sore and less wiped out. But even if the air is still, there is a silent weak link in every RV that is dumping your heat while you sleep. That weak link is your glass. Most people use Reflectix, that shiny bubble insulation, but they use it completely wrong. The manufacturer, Reflectix, says the foil only works as a radiant barrier if it faces a small airspace. If you slap it flat against the glass like wallpaper, it can't do its job. The real secret is cutting the panels to fit snugly so they trap a small pocket of air between the foil and the window. That tiny pocket of air is the difference between it barely helping and it actually saving your life when you climb into bed. Some people even add a dark fabric layer on the outside so it looks like a curtain for privacy. But what happens if your fuel runs out or your heater breaks in the middle of the night? You need the boil and bottle move. This is the zero power backup. If you don't have a heater running, boil a pot of water before bed and pour it into a bottle rated for near boiling temperatures. Seal it tight, wrap it in a sock, and put it near your feet or your core. It is an instant furnace, but it isn't a furnace, but it is a steady heat source that lasts for hours. For seniors, warm feet could be the difference between sleeping and just enduring the night. Just make sure the container is high heat rated so you don't end up with a leak. Now, you might be tempted to use your stove to keep the whole rig warm while you cook dinner, but that brings us to a non-negotiable safety rule. When you burn fuel inside your RV, you must ventilate. Carbon monoxide is a silent killer, and it doesn't care how cold you are. If you're using the stove to help heat the rig, you have to crack a window and keep the air moving. Once the cooking is done and the stove is off, that's when you seal everything up tight with your curtains and window panels. This keeps the heat in without the risk. But many RVers skip the stove and go straight for a portable propane heater like Mr. Heater Buddy. These are amazing for knocking the chill off in the morning. But there's a massive trade-off that most people miss until it's too late. A portable unvented propane heater is a supervised comfort move, not an overnight sleep move. It throws heat fast, which feels great on stiff hands, but it is also a moisture bomb. Burning propane releases water vapor into the air. If you run one all night in a small space, you'll wake up in a damp, cold swamp. Use it to get comfortable while you're awake, then shut it down and switch to your overnight setup. If you rely on more heat to solve the moisture problem, you will lose every time. And speaking of losing, there's a 3 a.m. shiver that has nothing to do with your heater and everything to do with what you ate. Your body is an internal furnace, but it needs fuel to burn. A warm, calorie-dense meal before bed helps you stay warmer longer as your body digests. This is the foundation. Once your body is fueled, you'll have to be smart about your electricity. This is where people destroy their batteries and wake up in a panic. Heating air takes massive amounts of energy. A 1500-watt space heater pulls about 125 amps through an inverter. That will crush a battery bank in hours. Instead, use a 12-volt travel blanket. They run about 48 watts or roughly 4 amps. It puts the heat exactly where you need it on your body instead of trying to heat the empty air in the closet. But even with a perfect night, the morning shock can be brutal. For seniors, the first 15 minutes of the day can be the hardest on the joints. This is when you use the dash heater as a tool, not a lifestyle. Start the engine and run the dash heater for a brief warm-up while you change clothes and make a hot drink. According to the EPA, a typical sedan only wastes about 0.08 gallons in 15 minutes of idling. It's a cheap way to get your hands working. While the cabin is warming up, boil your water for the day. Now you have warm air, a hot drink, and a fresh hot water bottle ready to go. But if you want to stop surviving and start living, you need the dry heat upgrade that pros use. The real winter game changer is a diesel air heater. Unlike propane, the combustion is separated from your living air. The exhaust goes outside and dry heat comes inside. This is why condensation almost disappears with these systems. They burn about zero point 0.1 to 0.24 liters of fuel per hour, making them incredibly efficient. But safety is the key. If you aren't comfortable with the installation, get help. Finally, you need a power plan that doesn't rely on luck. Use your alternator. With a DC to DC charger, a 1-hour grocery run could put 30 amp hours back into your battery. Combine that with roof solar to top off while you're parked, and you stop living in low battery panic. Staying warm isn't about one magic gadget, it's a layered system. Shrink the space, trap the air, control the moisture, and fuel your body. Drop a comment and tell me what heating solutions work for you so that we can learn from each other. Stay prepared, stay safe, and I'll see you out there.